Hi, everyone. This is Steve Dellison, and welcome to this week's edition of CEOs You Should Know. I'm thrilled to be joined by YC Cheng, the CEO of Hero Bread.
Hey, glad to be here.
Thanks for being here, YC. I'm excited to jump into your journey and learn more about the company as well. So why don't we kick it off? I know you've operated as a founder, an investor, and many other hats. How has switching between those roles really changed the way that you elevate product market fit and the team potential?
Oh, wow. Well, each of those roles have allowed me to see a different perspective about how products play a role in growing a company. And so, I think the founder side of it has really shaded my opinions the most, which is about, you should really focus on your consumer because that's who you're servicing, that's who you're trying to deliver product to. They're ultimately the people that you're trying to satisfy. But from an investor hat on, you realize that if a company doesn't have great product, there's no real true longevity to that company.
Sure.
And so it really helps me appreciate that the product is really a big differentiator, a big focus. And, I think in CPG, now that I'm working there, you realize how many sort of okay products there are, and yet the really great products differentiate themselves. And so now as an investor, I look for that a lot more.
That's awesome. It's a great perspective having all those different avenues of the business world to be able to have that one vision now moving forward.
Yeah.
So I know looking back, you've had 3 entrepreneurial journeys. What belief did you have early on that completely changed your mindset when it came to approaching each of those?
Oh, I think the biggest eye opener was really about raising capital and investors. I think when you're just a startup entrepreneur or you're someone trying to raise funds, I think the naive question is why wouldn't people want to give me money? I have a great company, I have a great idea, I have a great team. Why don't you write me a check? You invest in companies all the time. That's your job. But then you suddenly realize there's tons of other dynamics, and especially, being part of my own fund now, and I've invested over 100 different companies now, and I've raised, probably over $1 billion for different companies now. That the game is not that simple. Yeah. That there's a lot of dynamics on the fund level, within the fund itself, kind of what their strategies are or where stage they are in their deployment of their capital. Are they just starting or are they just kind of nursing the fund and then just the politics of everything and how they manage the expectations of everyone. So the naive view of raising money, I think, is what dramatically changed. And then the other is just the asymmetry of information that an investor has. And that's actually why I do what I do now. It's really bridge between founders and investors because, now I sit in a seat where I have really a firsthand view into over 100 different companies, and I could just call up their CEO. I could go look at their balance sheets. I can go, ask for their metadata or their Klaviyo data, and I can see everything across all these different companies now. And as a founder, you tend to get too siloed. Mm-hmm. And so you only just really know your numbers really deep, but you don't really have the up-to-date information on what good looks like.
Yep.
At a company this stage, at this industry, how much are they really spending on marketing as a percentage of revenue or whatever? And now an investor see I can see that immediately. And it's not just some report that gets published once a year because that changes too rapidly now. So being able to see that data in real time and try to right size the businesses or, I help and assist a bunch of founders on boards and stuff to be able to say, hey, right now at this moment with these tariffs and these fuel surcharges, right? Yep. This is what we're seeing. Yep. And to be able to share that information, but use it in my own businesses is super, super helpful. And that information asymmetry, I feel when I was at least moving up the ranks and doing stuff, I felt a lot of investors held that to themselves and they used it as power and control. And so I think democratizing that information to all the founders just helps people run better businesses.
Yeah, it's a great perspective. And it's kind of like a competitive edge now that you're able to have all those expertise and that experience to be able to see all those hundreds of companies and now be able to give little tidbits of what's working and what's not.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been, I guess I don't know for sure, but I don't think I would have been asked to be the CEO of Hero Bread if I didn't have that perspective and that access to information. and be able to, kind of right size and grow the company.
Awesome. We talked about teams a little bit. You mentioned earlier on in the conversation, and obviously you want to have a high performing team in any organization that you're running. What specific leadership habit or system have you consistently put in place that really separates good teams from truly exceptional teams?
I just wrote about this on my Substack, actually. But I think the biggest one that I learned along the way is really a great balance of focusing on outcomes. I think that a lot of teams and a lot of companies like to just, I call it work of the busy fool, where you're just checking things off the list. And a lot of times teams don't know what they're driving to or why they're driving to. I think something that I used to do early in my career is just say, hey, team, do this, do this, do this, right? And I thought from my vantage point, I can like call down and tell them what to do and solve the problem. Well, in fact, what I really liked in a book that I read early on is a book called Empowered Teams or Empower. And it's all about like explaining the why, right? It's almost like Simon Sinek's like, why? Why does it matter? Focus on the outcome and where you're trying to go, and then let your team come up with all the solutions that do that. And I think you're able to hire better people, retain them better, and they have to use their brain matter more, and they're more engaged, and they feel like there's more buy-in and ownership for the things that they're doing to solve that. And so that's like a pattern I see in really good high-performing teams is that you can tell them why, and then you can agree on the goal, and then you just kind of let them do it. But what I learned at Topgolf is that there's a balance to that. Because if you just give them goals, they may sometimes get there in a way you don't feel is healthy, right? That's where like, I guess we're sort of around Wall Street. You get Wall Street kind of like cheating the system or cutting corners or people being jerks but getting the outcome. And so you have to balance, like focus on the outcome, but how you do it does matter. But I'm not going to tell you the solution to do it. Like you come up with the solution. That's why I hire you. That's why I pay you.
100%. That's why you trust them to do their job,
That's right.
It's not just delegating every single task. It's actually having that belief and that faith in the people that you're bringing into your inner circle.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. At Hero Bread, obviously innovation means something different, right? It's kind of recreating a nostalgia with a breakthrough product. Tell us a little bit about that process on what you were able to innovate with Hero Bread that didn't lose what people think about in the grocery store.
Yeah. So one thing you'll learn about me is I just love food. And I try to eat about as much as if I can and go discover it and do whatever. So yeah, I think the opportunity was there was a real big sort of gulf between, hey, I really like food. I'm going to go get my artisanal tartine country loaf or whatever patisserie. And then there was this like really mass marketed bread. And I think bread and baked goods have been one of the most sort of maximized food products in terms of cost and convenience. It's really been driven to become a commodity in a lot of the retail stores where, people only want to pay like 10 cents a slice and they wanted it to sit on their counter for like a year without molding and all that. So what we really saw was this like middle solution where you can get the convenience and you can get the taste of what you love at a grocery store, but with the higher nutritional value and the clean ingredients that you can get sort of more at an artisanal place. And so that's where real Hero Bread came, is like we wanted to get that everyday accessibility, but upgraded as like an everyday luxury almost, where you feel like you're getting something better than you would get traditionally at a grocery store. And we want to make sure we match the taste profile because especially if you have kids, you don't really want them to change, right? You don't want, they love their Wonder Bread, they love their King's Hawaiian roll, they love their bagel. And so what we try to do is match the comfort and the taste profile, but add the nutrition and the cleanliness to it.
When you open the lunchbox, you want to make sure the sandwich is gone.
Yeah. That's one of our litmus tests is like, if your kids think we changed the product, then, you're in trouble. So we won't release that product. Like the white bread, literally I hear the story and we get emails every single week of a parent saying, hey, I changed to your white bread at Hero Bread from Wonder Bread or whatever other brand. And by the way, my kids didn't even know.
That's
And
awesome.
so, they're getting their protein, they're getting
Yep.
fiber, they're getting a much cleaner product with no sugar, and they're just as happy.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We talked a little bit about your leadership around teams, but let's dive into your leadership style overall. So, obviously, as someone who teaches and practices leadership, I'm sure that along the way you've had to adapt your leadership style from being in the early stages of maybe a scrappy startup to obviously now being the CEO and in a much more structured, growth-oriented organization. How has your leadership changed from the very, very beginning to where you see yourself now?
Oh, well, yeah, there's really two dimensions to that. I'll try to keep it brief. But one is just my own personal journey,
Hmm.
right? My own personal journey is, I think, very similar to a lot of sort of high performing people, where it's like I thought I knew all the answers and I thought I could outwork everybody. And I thought the job of a leader was just like bossing it out to people, right? Like,
Yep.
you do this, do this, do this is the way it should be done, or whatever. It was very dictatorial. And just, it was very hard. It was very hard to scale. I wasn't getting the outcomes that I wanted because I was limited to my own ideas and what I could push through and force people to do. And just over time, just learning, right, how to actually be a leader, not a dictator.
Hmm.
And allowing the teams to really do the job, right? My job is to help them get there, hire the right people, put the right structure in place, and remove barriers for them. But like, in terms of company wise, like, as the company scales from like 3 employees to 30,000 employees, the one commonality of the whole thing, other than that structure and outcomes, which I think applies to all stages, is that it's just helping people move from single contributors to managers to teams. That's a huge transition.
Hmm.
And what's really hard is keeping the entrepreneurial risk-taking thing through the whole process. Because people, yes, you do need process. Yes, you do need operations. And you need to scale, so you need to be repeatable. You can't just have individual heroics all the time. But you really lose the ability to take risk. It's so surprising. Like, I always find out, like, once you get past like 25 people get really risk adverse, and I don't really fully understand why. I'd love to do a study on it. So every day I'm reminding people, and my old boss at Topgolf used to say, hey, if you're not risking 10% of the company at a time, you're not really taking a risk, because that could totally fail and the company would be totally fine. And so, like, something I push every team on, no matter stage, is like, you need to take risks. Like, you need to have courage to do what you think is right.
Yep.
And if you're not, then you're not really helping the company.
Yeah. You're not having that growth mindset and being able to go to what's next.
Totally.
Absolutely. I know that in the past you've spoken about bridging digital and physical platforms. How does that philosophy show up concretely in Hero's go-to-market strategy and brand and identity as well?
Yeah, I think that the way it shows up for me is that we are truly omnichannel.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just retail bias. We're not just D2C bias. We want to make sure that you truly have a full channel digital experience, even though it's really physical bread and it's a really sort of, I guess, traditional, authentic feel, right? Breaking the bread is just like a visceral moment. But yet, if you want to learn about the product, you can have this whole digital experience. If you want to buy it digitally, you can buy it digitally. We embrace all the creators who talk about our product. So, yeah, I think it's just the modern world. You have to do both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know that we talked earlier about like the mom who wrote in and talked about how she transitioned the former bread to Hero bread. And I'm sure a lot of that consumer journey went into when you were thinking about how to position the product itself, right? How did you prioritize between the product perfection, the storytelling aspect of it, and the distribution aspect of it?
Oh, well, I'm really biased, and our founder Cole Glass is really biased too. It's like product first all the time. It's got to be wonderful. We really don't let perfection get in our way, like a progress.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got to be really good. And that's where we spend most of our money. Like, the first 4 years of the company was all product. They didn't even commercialize it at all, which is like shocking in a CPG company. But yeah, if the product's right and the consumers love it and there's repeat there and it's part of their everyday lives, then the distribution will come.
Yep.
And then we actually spend very little on marketing. We really let the product and word of mouth drive the day.
That's great. I'm sure reimagining a staple food like bread on both the emotional and the scientific side wasn't all obviously positive along the way, right? What were some of the challenges you might have occurred early on or still even today that you were able to overcome?
Oh my gosh, like I don't have enough time to talk
We
about
need
it.
another podcast for that one.
Yeah, like actually I love that stuff. Yeah, I think the big stuff is just like traditionally at Hero Bread, they weren't CPG people. Like I don't even come from traditional CPG. I only learned because I invested in a bunch of companies. But you know, there's channel strategy problems. Like they went food service first with Subway, and it was like too expensive, and they couldn't quite get the product right to Subway specs and all that stuff. And so just had to reboot the channels, reboot the products. The team was really big, so we had to like right size it and get the right people in the right seats. And there wasn't any like success management routines, you know, like just really simple stuff like, do we have a monthly all hands? No. Well, how does everybody know what's going on? You know, like, do you do one-on-ones with all your managers? No. Okay. Well, maybe we should probably fix that. Or, yeah. What's the accounting like? You're like, okay, go. Do we know how much inventory you have? You know, in the beginning, no. So yeah, it's just a lot of things that, you need to put in place, and what held the company together is just, you know, the great products that the team has been making and the founder, which bought us time to fix everything else. Which you know, again, is something I've seen in tons of companies over and over again. If the consumers love it, the product delivers its own value, you can fix everything around it and get there.
For the founders that you consult and any founders that might be tuning in that are trying to build both a really strong product and a meaningful brand, what's a mistake you see repeatedly happening that they should do differently?
Oh,
loaded question, I know.
The one I see is like, don't drink your own Kool-Aid. It's funny how many people make products and so many people tell them it's great and it's not great. And you just start believing it.
And you spend all this time on something that's not perfection.
Have some integrity, have you know, more outside point of view, have people who are willing to challenge you, and listen to the customer. Because yeah, I've seen so many products that everybody says it's great, we found product market fit, and it's like, no, you have not. The data shows it has not. The reason why you're spending that much in marketing is because you do not have fit and all that stuff. That's the most common mistake, probably.
Good advice. So a lot of exciting stuff happening for Hero Bread. But what's next? Are there any exciting developments or any expansions on the horizon that you could share?
Yeah, well, we're starting to expand more in Walmart and Target, so we'd love it if people would go there and shop there for us, and find our breads there. We recently launched a noodle product, so
okay, cool.
We have an elbow product and a penne product, which are really, really delicious. You know, we just saw this gap in the market where a lot of people were trying to make clean, protein-forward pasta, but they were using non-wheat products and they were using like peas and stuff like that. Which
it didn't taste great either.
To be honest, it didn't make my stomach feel very good. So we decided we were going to try to solve that problem.
That's
so
awesome.
We make a really phenomenal, really clean ingredient pasta that I just love. So
that's awesome.
You can go buy it now at Hero.
Sounds good. I know we covered a lot, but is there anything that you want the listeners to know? What would be like the one thing you want them to know about the mission of the company?
Oh, well, I think we talked about it a lot, but at the end of the day, like, I think for me, I know everyone's life is very complicated. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's really chaotic. And the way I walk into work every day is to say, hey, how can I make this decision easier for you? How can Hero do the work for you so that you have some faith that if you pick up a loaf of bread from us or a box of pasta from us, that we've done the work to make sure that it's clean, to make sure that it tastes great, and that you can use it every day without changing your routine. And it's just like a simple upgrade for you, that you can feel confident that you're kind of doing the right thing for yourself and your family. And so that's what we try to focus on every day.
I love that. Well, if someone's tuning in that wants to do the right thing for their family and they want to try Hero Bread, what should they do?
Well, we would love you to go to hero.co. We have a great online platform there. We have a crafted collection of really handmade baked goods that you can't get anywhere else, which I love, and I personally subscribe to it. But yeah, you can find us at Whole Foods, Sprouts, Walmart, Target, Wegmans, Publix. We're in over almost 9,000 doors now. So
Congrats.
We're probably
awesome.
at a store near you. And if you don't have it, please ask them for us. We would really like the help for you to help us there.
That's awesome. Well, YC, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for telling us about Hero Bread, but obviously also all about your background and your expertise. We really appreciated the journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. And thank you all for tuning in. Tune in next week for next week's edition of CEOs You Should Know.